Hey guys, Stephanie with AmericanMuscle.com here with my review and dyno test of the JLT cold air intake available for your 2012 and 13 Boss 302. The JLT cold air is going to be for the Boss 302 owners out there, or even the 11 to 14 GT owners who've installed a Boss intake manifold who are looking for a top-rated quality intake that will provide some solid gains in both power and sound compared to the factory airbox and will look good under the hood while doing so. Now I should point out that the JLT is a tune-required intake, so you can't just bolt this thing up to your Boss or GT without a custom tune, and I'll explain why in a minute. But first, let's get to some dyno numbers. Now we already established a baseline run earlier today using the 13 Boss behind me, and we then went to work installing the JLT along with a custom tune as required, reran the car, and here are those numbers. So our baseline run with our 2013 Boss gave us numbers of 387 horsepower and 333 foot-pounds of torque at the rear wheels. With the JLT intake and the 93 octane VMP tune, the car made 398 horsepower and 337 foot-pounds of torque, making for a peak gain of 11 horsepower and 4 foot-pounds of torque. And by opening up some airflow in those upper RPMs, we ended up seeing 15 horsepower at 7,400 RPM and 10 foot-pounds of torque at 7,000 RPM. Now keep in mind that we did pair the intake with a tune, so a lot of these gains can definitely be attributed to that tune. As far as curve gains, you can see right here that there isn't a whole lot going on in the graph. The factory intake is actually really efficient, so like I said, not a ton of curve gains, but all of the gains are going to be in the upper RPMs where the stock airbox starts to become restrictive. With the numbers out of the way, let's dive into the JLT. In my opinion, JLT is one of the most trusted and recognizable names in the cold air market for the late model Mustang, and the numerous 5-star reviews on the site reflect that. As I mentioned earlier, the JLT is a tune-required intake, and that's due to the large 107 mass airflow housing, currently the largest available on the site for the S197 Boss intake manifold. The larger MAF housing and intake tube should allow your Boss or GT to breathe easier and will traditionally make a little more power when compared to a no tune required intake because of the larger MAF housing and intake tube. So JLT keeps more of a simplistic design with this intake. The intake is all business. They don't use any flashy finishes or any gimmicks to separate their products from the others. One thing I do like about the JLT design is that they incorporate the MAF housing into the tube itself, which just looks cleaner in my opinion. Some other options use a separate metal MAF housing along with a plastic tube, and there's nothing wrong with that from a performance standpoint, but it just doesn't look as nice to me. In addition to the tube and MAF housing, the rest should look pretty familiar in the world of aftermarket intake. Reusable high-flow S&B oiled filter, an open element style heat shield which does tap into the factory cold air duct, which is a nice touch, and finally all of the hardware and couplers to wrap everything up. Now the JLT will obviously work with the factory throttle body without issue, but it should also work with any aftermarket 85mm or 90mm throttle body without an issue as well. Another nice thing to point out is that the JLT includes a foam plug to insert into the portion of your GT's hood vent to prevent water from getting into your filter. And believe me, it's something that you're going to want to use as the filter does sit right below the lower portion of the hood vent on the driver's side. So thumbs up to JLT for including this. Even with these extras and the solid construction and the largest on the market MAF, the JLT is still coming in at a very reasonable price point, coming in right around the $300 price mark. A brief rundown of the install. Basic hand tools here, guys, including a socket set, a few screwdrivers, a pair of pliers, and a Torx tool for the MAF sensor is really all you need to remove the factory intake and get the new JLT into place. I will say assembling the intake first outside of the car will make life a little bit easier, along with installing the heat shield first, but this is overall basic stuff that any novice should be able to tackle with ease. All in all, this is going to be a 1 out of 3 wrenches on the scale, and guys, maybe about 30 minutes to an hour depending on your experience. As far as my recap, here's what I think. The JLT is one of the top rated intakes on the site, and it's easy to see why. And when paired with the required custom tune option, the power improvements are going to be tough to beat given the price point. Be sure to learn more about ways to add power to your Boss right here at AmericanMuscle.com.